Hi everyone and welcome to the channel. Today we're working on a really cool little knife. I'm not sure exactly what we should call this one. It's kind of bigger than a petty, but smaller than a chef knife. Maybe a petite chef? Let me know what you think below. So we're going to start this one off with 5 pieces of steel. We aren't going for heaps of layers or anything on this one, simply a 5-layer go-my construction. In our mix we have 2 pieces of mild steel, 2 pieces of high nickel 15N20 and our core material of 1095. And now that we've got that one all welded together, it's time to light the forge and bring this one up to forge welding temperature. With the stack up to forge welding temperature, we'll give it a few gentle kisses on the press to help set the welds and to get it all consolidated into one chunk of steel. With our weld set, we can square up the billet and isolate the material that will form our integral bolster and the tang. With that material moved into place, we can start drawing out our blade. We start by pulling down the material that will form the heel of the knife, and then move on to drawing it out into a blade shape. With a really rough shape, we can start moving between the anvil and the press. The hammer moves material far slower, but it's a lot more controlled, and the mistakes I always seem to make aren't quite so big. After getting the forging done, we'll give this one a thermal cycle overnight in the kiln, and then get the profile ground in and remove a little excess mass from the bolster area. Now that the profile is all cleaned up, we need to get this one hardened. If we leave this all as forged, there's a chance the bolster won't harden properly, and it's much harder work to grind steel when it's hardened. So for the hardening, all we need to do is pop it into the kiln, bring it up to critical temperature, and plunge it into the quenching oil. And you're welcome for the white leg shot. I promise I do go outside from time to time, but for some reason, they always stay that white. Now that this one's hardened, it's time to actually turn it into a functional knife. We start by marking out the edge that will become the cutting edge with a black marker, and then scribe a line down the centre to give us something to work towards. And now that that's all laid out, we'll start off by cutting into the centre line to start off our bevels. With the centre line established, we can start the heavy grinding. We're going to leave some forged texture in the pinch area of this blade, so this should go pretty quickly. Also, having the mild steel jacket on the outside of the steel makes it a lot easier in the grinding. We start off at 36 grit to remove the bulk of the material. I've been making knives for some time, but a fresh 36 grit belt at full speed is still terrifying. It can't tell the difference between steel or flesh and bone, so they need to be treated with a lot of respect. After getting our bevels roughed in, we move up to 60 grit to improve the scratch pattern, and then to 120 and an A100 Trizac to get a good start on the finishing process. After the grinding is all finished up, we'll bring this one up to 400 grit by hand. In hindsight, I should have gone a little higher in this one, to shine up that 15N20 line a little bit more, but hey, we're here now. After getting the hand sanding finished on the blade, it's time to fit up the handle. For the handle, I've got this beautiful piece of burl. To be honest, I've had this block for quite a while and can't recall the species. Maybe rosewood? I'm not sure. But if there's someone watching that can tell, please let me know in the comments below. We start off by drilling a few holes into the block, and then enlarge the holes with a broach. This broach removes material pretty slow, but it's nice for getting that slot pretty close to the shape of the tank. With our mortise cut, I'm going to add a little G10 shim. It gives a little black contrast line, but also gives a little protective layer later on when we do the etching. Now we can get this one all glued up. Here I'm using 24-hour epoxy, tinted black to hide any of our insecurities or little gaps in the bolster grinding. It's the next day and the epoxy has gotten nice and hard, so we need to draw out a rough shape that we're chasing and get the outside profile of the handle cut in. I've never made this handle shape before, but I'm trying to lift my handle sculpting game a bit, so I guess there's no time like the present. With the handle profile roughed in, I'll start making the handle narrower. Then, I want to cut in some of that Coke bottle shape, so I'll switch over to a larger contact wheel and give it some hips. I have no idea if I'm doing this right or wrong, but I'm doing what makes sense in my head. And now that we have some contour, I'll make sure that all the hard corners are broken and start rounding everything out with a slack 240 grit belt. And with the shaping done, I'll give it a hand sand up to 1500 grit with a little wet sand on the last few grits. With the sanding on the handle done, I'll move over to the buffer to give this one some shine. With a little pink compound on the wheel, this burl shines up really quickly. I'll also hit the bolster on this one to make sure it feels as smooth as possible. With the handle all buffed up, I'll add in my maker's mark. Because this one will be going into ferric chloride, we only need to etch this one for depth. The dark will come from the acid. Ladies of the world, please look away. I'm going to add a small amount of nail polish as a resist to stop the acid from staining the handle. But as you can see here, I'm not getting a job doing manicures anytime soon. With our nail polish nice and dry, it's into the acid. After a few 5-minute cycles being scrubbed down with 3000 grit between dips, we can see the layers exposed and it's looking pretty cool. Here you can see why I should have gone a little higher in the hand sanding grits. Because there are a few coarser scratches, the 15N20 line isn't as shiny as it could be, but it still looks pretty cool. With the etching finished and the nail polish removed, I'll give the quick handle a polish with carnauba wax to bring out all the natural figure, and add a layer of protection to the wood that's food safe and easy to replace when required. And there we go, I'm in love with the feeling of this handle shape, and I'm really going to try and expand on this in the future. The little bit of forge finish with the darker wood gives a real utilitarian vibe without looking too rough. This little chef knife will be a real workhorse. It almost feels like an extension of my hand. Thanks for watching the video, guys. If you liked it, please consider giving the video a like and subscribing to the channel. Thanks again for watching, everyone. See you on the next one.